freedom of speech and religion. Here, first religion, this is you speaking at Notre Dame a couple of years ago, Notre Dame University. Quote, freedom of worship means freedom to practice religion in the privacy of your home, or in your church, or your synagogue, or your mosque. But when you step outside into the public square, in the light of day, you had better behave yourself like a good secular citizen. That's the problem we face. Explain that.
Well, I think it is the problem that we face because support for religious liberty, unfortunately, has cratered in the last 20, 25 years. The high point, I would say, was 1996 when Congress passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Congress was upset that a decision of the Supreme Court had not gone far enough to protect religious liberty. So they stepped in and they said, no, we're going to do more. We're going to provide more protection. That law, RFRA, passed with a voice vote in the House. In the Senate, 97 votes, signed happily by President Clinton. That's the state of the situation in 1996. 2015, the state of Indiana tries and enacts virtually an identical law, and there's furious opposition. The NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, the NCAA all threatened they're going to pull games out of Indiana. States said we're not going to allow any official travel to conferences in Indiana. So the support has decreased. But I think that protection of religious liberty is required by our Constitution. And it's, again, like equality, it is essential for the well-being of the country.
Two quotations. The First Amendment itself, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And here's a second quotation. Since you spoke at Notre Dame, I'm quoting the Notre Dame professor, Phil Munoz, writing just last year, the founders understood religious institutions have an important, arguably essential, sounds like Justice Alito, role to play in supporting American democracy. Government cannot and ought not be neutral toward religion. This is why religious liberty is and must remain Americans' first freedom, close quote. Okay. So this layman, I'm personally totally in sympathy with Professor Munoz, but the language of the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. This was in the days, of course, when Virginia had an established religion, the Anglican Church, and the Puritan, various Congregationalist churches, I recall, was established in Connecticut, and on it went. Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion, which is to say, Congress won't impose a state religion. That's one matter. Phil Munoz is arguing, well, the founders understood that we actually need to support religion. I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but that's the way I read that passage. There's a tension there, is there not, or am I misreading this?
The two clauses need to be read together, and they do seem to move in somewhat different directions. The Establishment Clause is very tricky because it's hard to understand exactly what is an establishment of religion. The core is what you mentioned, having an established church. It's been long agreed, and I certainly agree that the prohibition goes beyond that. What we have done, and I think we've taken the right approach to this in recent years, is to look to history, and history is very informative about what was permitted, what was viewed askance. On the Free Exercise Clause, it is very important to note that the Constitution singles out religion for favorable treatment. Congress shall make no law infringing the freedom of religion. It doesn't say what the French Declaration of the Rights of Man said in 1789, just about the same time as our First Amendment. Right. They said no one shall be disquieted, disquieted because of his opinions, including religious opinions. So it protected philosophical views. It protected views that were not based on religion, but on something else that people might think is very important. But our Constitution singles out religion
per se,
and gives it it gives it protection that is not afforded to views that are not religiously based.
And what work needs to be done there? I can't remember who it was who said that it's fair to expect the judicial system to ignore the politics of the day, but naive to expect the judicial system to remain unaffected by the politics of the era. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And if public support for religion, public practice of religion, if the support, as you just said, is cratering, what can the court do over the long term?
Well, I think we have to stand up for the Constitution. There's a reason why we're not elected. We are not supposed to do what is popular. We're supposed to do what is right. We're supposed to interpret the Constitution and figure out what it means and then apply the Constitution. That's the purpose of this institution, the core purpose of this institution, to prevent society at times. We're basically a democratic country, but the framers wanted to put some restraint on things that people might do because of during a particular area, because they're caught up in the emotions of that are triggered by the events of the day. So we have to stand firm on this, and I think we have done a pretty good job on it. But we have to keep it up, because challenges will continue to come.